Okay, I apologize in advance if I sound a little nasally. I'm still getting over a bad infection from this weekend, but the show must go on. So we had planned to do this today, but we had instead gone over reviewing the work from Monday and Tuesday, and frankly I found it to be probably something we should have done it regardless. So this will be the lesson that we will be covering on the 13th. This 2-point perspective for architecture. Now this is split up into 2 sections. One will be for interiors, which generally covers corners and walkways, and is split into a path. And the other will be for exteriors, which covers corners, aerial views, or ground views, otherwise called worm's eye. This ties directly into your project, as all things working out correctly, it will be on Monday, or Tuesday, latest. And you will have to draw a building from a set number of angles. So let's start only with interiors and work with there. Now, all of you will get a sheet just like this. This is actually a copy of the original. And I'll be drawing everything using a red pencil so you can clearly see what I'm doing. When this lesson's over, the video will go up on Canvas as well as the completed product, which is just a scan of this. So let's begin. Now, like with anything in 2-point perspective, we start by finding at least one intersecting point. And I didn't have another one down here, so I will just draw myself a fresh line from vanishing point 1. And once I have this down, I am going to draw out my lines like so. Now, we did not get to this point with anything past 3rd period, so 3rd period, technically you are ahead for once. I believe it was Mr. Lucero that said that we are missing something before we go any further with drawing interiors. And that would be, when drawing interiors, your vanishing point doesn't really work the way it's supposed to. How it works is that it has to end. These hallways, any hallways you're going to, unless you're in the back rooms, nothing will go on forever because we have, obviously, walls. So before we get any further, let us go ahead and follow our lines all the way back here and put in our boxes to represent the ends of these hallways. Now, these do not have to be equidistant, so for this one, I'm going to make it a little bigger. Voila. Okay, now that we have our ends, that means we now have our ceilings, these are our walls, and these would be the floors. Now, I'm going to assume that we're just going to do this like regular tiling. So, let us do the floors first. So, going from our vanishing point, I'm drawing fairly light here, but I will be darkening my lines relatively soon. Next, that's one side. And because everything at 2-point requires our lines to intersect, going from my other vanishing point, and just add one more over yonder. Now, once we have these, we can just go back to vanishing point number 2 to get the extra tiles on the side of vanishing point number 1. Just like at 1 point, these lines are going to get closer and closer together as we get closer to our vanishing point, and further apart as we get further away from our vanishing point. Just be faster, just make sure that you apply your speed filter, because yes, you can slow things down on YouTube for this very reason. Alright, so we have our floors. Yay. I'm not going to do anything too fancy with the floors for right now. I'm instead going to work on getting things built into here. So, consider this like it would be any other hallway in this building. So we'll want to have our trim. Generally, corners will have some extra material on the side. One to protect the wall, so in case anything hits it, we don't have sharp, jagged parts coming out. And aesthetically, it helps bring things more together. And it ties right into the trim, which is the bit of wood or plastic or what have you that goes along the bottom of any wall. It splits between the wall and the floor. Now, obviously, as it gets closer to our vanishing points, it's going to just get smaller and smaller until it just blends in with the line that you have for the edge. There you go. So we have our trim, we have our floor, we have our hallway. Let's get our lights. Now, I'm not going to use the exact same kind of lights we have here in the school. So in this case, I'm just going to choose these lines here. Remember that whatever you do here, it's still going to be slanted. Unless something is on the horizon line. Remember that we do not have any other horizontal lines. Everything is either vertical, which establishes height, or it is diagonal, which establishes distance. No horizontals, unless it sits on the horizon line. So there's one. And then I'll just do the same thing on this side here. Just a quick check. There we go. Just a quick check. Make sure that my line is heading back towards the other vanishing point. And there are lights. Okay, now let's get some more structure in here. Such as, let's get a little bit of a notch in our wall here. I'm sure some of you have seen some of these rooms that have these outcroppings that don't really serve a purpose. It's really for aesthetics. Every time, making sure everything goes back to one of these vanishing points. Everything on the side of vanishing point 2 needs to go towards vanishing point 2. Everything on the side of vanishing point 1 needs to go towards vanishing point 1. And here they'll start darkening some of my lines so they stand out more. Okay, we have one. Let's make another one, say over here. As simple as just going slightly off your original floor line and slightly off your original ceiling line. Like so. Remember that you also need to have your trim go around it as well. Okay, so let's add some other things. Let's see, how about a door? So let us go and add one, let's say here. Now, if you feel that your floor tiles are too big, you can just add more lines. In fact, I'll probably do that in a little bit here. Not all tile work is pretty equal and all that. And make sure to have our door frame, just like we went over with 1 point. And I'll just model this on our doors here. So let's get that little window. I'm going to stop it just with the horizon line. So because this window is, just because this window is just above our horizon line here, that means I should be seeing the bottom of the little plate there. Let's see, let's get our doorknob and a little sign. There we go. And alright, let's go further down, add us a bulletin board. The bulletin board can be a little higher or lower. Let's not have it too low though, because why would you have a bulletin board on the floor? And because it's further back, it is going to be decidedly smaller. There we go. Okay, probably shouldn't put a door there. Let's put one all the way down here. Now, a nice little thing to do here is that you can pop a line up here and there, just get a rough idea of where your door should be. We know that has to be above the horizon line because that's where it cuts here. So your door should be about right about this tall. And there you have it. Over here you can add other things. For example, let's say, I don't know, you want a window, because not every room has to be just walls on all sides. Little window, let some people in, because we never said that this was a school hallway. It could be one in an office, it could be one in a lab. Because the bottom part is going to fall below our horizon line, we should be seeing the top of that sill. And just some light shading to separate it off from everything else. There we go. And yeah, I think I will add a few more lines here to make our tiling not so huge. Because you have to consider, if the tiles are too huge, what happens when they get damaged? I'm sure y'all have seen damaged tiles in the hallways in this school, but these tiles are maybe the size of somebody else's backpack at the most. Too big, and then it's just like moving an entire door, which is not feasible. Sadly. Make a few more, make all the difference. Now, because these tiles here would be closer to the viewer, make sure that you are adding a stronger outline. Remember, anything that is close to the bottom, close to the viewer, is going to have a sharper outline, sharper colors, not so blurry. Now, as we get further away, then we can just leave that kind of blurry, light, kind of smudgy look there. Because, as we went over with atmospheric perspective, things that are further away don't just lose that harsh outline, they lose general clarity. There we go. Now, in this case, you might wonder, where's the light source? Well, that would just have to be the lights that we have in the ceiling, and you could probably say that you could get some from the window in the door and the window on the side. So I'm just going to apply some light shading. Very light. I keep most of the light in the center. That feel like we need to add something else to this. We did go over a little bit on foreground elements, and some of you have been using it, but a foreground element is good for two things. One, it shows a nice, how put this way? It displays distance very well, because a foreground element doesn't necessarily have to be very detailed. If you have your hand really close to your face, it's still going to be very blurry, despite the fact that, logically speaking, it should have the most detail. So let's say I want a pillar, or say the corner of the hallway. It's as easy as starting a line, still keeping my rule of no horizontals, but hey, verticals are still fair game. And I can just shade the entire thing in. Well, what if I'm losing the stuff on this side? What does it matter? This thing is blocking the path, yes? Because see, the thing we do this, it encloses your space a little more, makes it seem a little more lived in. It could be an additional form of shade. But it just adds a little more character to what is essentially a pretty boring hallway. Now let's see, these lights are over here, so we can add a little more shading on the edge, like so, and like so. And there you have it, the hallway. Now, clearly the hallways that we have here in the school will be a little different. Not sure I'm going to take you out of the hallway, because I really much prefer that you go into architecture on the exterior end of things. Just a few looks of graphics around here. And there you have it. Feel free to add in other little details, like, say, trash cans. Let's add one over here as well. Add a little more color to your tiles. If you want to add a checkerboard finish, that is up to you. That is completely optional. Just make sure that you are applying atmospheric perspective. Once it gets further away, you should be seeing less and less of it. Looks a little more lively now. Okay, so now that we have our interior, let us move on to the exterior. Now, this would best be served when we go outside and draw the school angles, but it works pretty much the same way. We're going to start with a corner. In this case, I am going to go off panel. This is why I keep drawing these panels that you keep seeing here, because there is no harm in going off panel, especially as then we can really establish things. Let's see what's over here. So I can use this intersection here, go off panel. Oh well. Happens. And that's when we can apply like so and like so. Now because we are outside, now we have to consider the whole infinite vanishing point thing. We are not a walled city, we are a single building on the field, so I am going to cut my building here, to actually start going up, and let's say here. Now, along with this, I'm going to establish a sidewalk. So we're not drawing our building, we're just drawing a building. Not even a terribly big one. Let's cross over, because remember, on your end, you'll be erasing a lot of these lines. So, following back from our vanishing point. Now, if you're wondering, well, Mr. Scott, how come you're not going all the way over there? Like, well, child, I can pretty much do this, a lot of this in my head. Now, does that make me a master of perspective? Oh, God, no. You saw me during third period, you saw that some of my vectors were curved. One, I don't draw very well on whiteboard, but the other is, well, also I'm sick. But the other is that even professionals have problems with perspective. What I can cheat out of my head, yeah, that's not the standard. I know artists that can do things far more complicated than I can with little to no vectors, just because they've been doing it for that long that the vectors are in their heads. You're not at that point, and there's no harm, there's no shame in not being at that point, because everyone has to start somewhere. I have never met a professional that said that they are done learning, they have learned everything they need, there's nothing new. That's just not how it works. At least not for the pros. So once you have this down, we're going to add a few little lines here to denote my slabs. Alright, let's get some work on this building done. Now, judging by the size of this sidewalk, we can already assume that this is not a very big building. I mean, consider the size of the average sidewalk slab. I would say that our doors are probably no bigger than, I'd say maybe this big. So we're clearly dealing with a one-story affair. Now I'm going to make this something of a storefront. So the cool thing about using these storefronts is that a lot of times they aren't just here's a door and then here's a wall. What they do, both for aesthetic and security reasons, is that there's a window all across it. If you've ever been to, like, say, a standalone store, like, say, a GameStop, for example, whatever part is for that store is going to have a setup like this. Now, just like for the interior, we do need our trim. Not as much, but we will need our trim. And a little bit here, because someone has to be holding the wall up. Now let's see here. Let's add. We'll just make the door down here. And we'll note the difference by having trim at the bottom on the window side. Maybe get a few posts in here and there to add support. Just a reminder, you can slow this video down, or speed it up if you think that this is going too slow for you. The wonders of technology. We'll have our door. So for businesses, normally they'll have something like what we have in front of the school, like a push button dealie or something with a just long handle. Adjustment so I can see this clearly. There we go. Now, there might be an additional window, but that's not necessarily guaranteed, because here's the thing. If there's windows all across, where's the storage room? Generally, the storefront, the active area, will be where everyone can just see what's inside, because that's how window shoppers work. Give that some light shading. While the other side is where, like, say, we have the storage rooms or restrooms, break rooms, because no one needs to be seeing what the employees are doing constantly. No one needs to see where they're storing things or how they're locking things up. No one needs to see into the bathroom. So it won't go across everything, just a lot of it. All right, so now that we have our windows here, we have our sidewalk. Let's see here, what can we add? Oh, right, a sign. And this is where your Texan perspective comes in. So I'm just going to have a very basic marquee here. A marquee being what they put the signs on. So generally there'll be one on one side. If they feel like spending the money, they'll have some on the other side, maybe a little smaller. And let's see, what do I want to make this? Oh, I'm a video game boy, so I'm just going to say games. Not even GameStop, because forget GameStop. There are better places to go for games. There we go. Get a little bit of color in there to break it all up. Just a slight bit of 3D there. I don't need to put in too much. There we go. We add a little bit extra for the roof. Generally what happens with roofs is that we don't want anyone to just, I don't know, walk up there and walk off. We're not going to go into OSHA compliance because that's what the seventh graders have to go through, and we really don't have the time. But generally speaking, there are extra defenses, little measures on the rooftops to keep someone from just walking up there and just walking off to their dooms. Now, because we have this building here, let's add another one. However, we're not going to have to put too much detail into it because it's further away. We have our main building here, and I even give it a nice bold outline to show that, yeah, this is the big one, this is the main one. So then I can just take one of my vectors over here. Take one here. This one I can actually just leave on the horizon line. Oh look, another building. And just with some light shading, we now have established that yes, there is more here, but we don't have to put detail into it. Same if we did the same thing over here. So let's follow our vector. Let's put one here. Like the last one, we'll put it on the horizon line. Here's one a little bit longer. Shade it in. There we go. And this is a nice trick to just cheat in a little more space in your drawings. Now let's add a few more things here. Now, I'm going to assume that this is a general walking area here. We're not going to have, say, proper parking space and all that. However, we can have a few things, such as, once again, trash cans. Those are important. We can have outdoor signs. Because this is a sidewalk, what goes next to a sidewalk but a street. So we can actually go ahead and, just like we did on that test, apply a few road markers. Apply some over here. So what are we putting here? Oh, look. Crosswalk. Especially if we darken up our road here. Leave the road markers. Those have to be luminescent for a reason. They reflect light. Kind of important when y'all start driving. Scary thought, y'all driving. And then we can just put in our crosswalk. Now, crosswalks are only as good as the signals that they carry, so let's just pop one in real quick. Make sure to give it a nice dark outline because now it is ahead of our main building. And because it is above our horizon line, we should be seeing the bottom of it. Give it a little bit of shadow there. What other things can we add to our street? Say, I don't know, sewer drains, the big old Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtle covers there, little drains on the side, just little things to catch rainwater and all that. And oh hey, can't forget a little thing like street lamps. There's no really better cheat than a street lamp because really all you have to do is follow a single vector to make them all the same height whilst doing half the work. From here, you can add on anything else, like say a little bit of brickwork. I would not suggest doing every individual brick. You will lose your minds, and honestly, it's not worth it half the time. A few bits here and there goes a long way, but it does not have to be every individual one. It's kind of like if you drew every single wrinkle that was in your shirt, it would make you look ungodly disheveled. You'll need to draw every single one, just enough to know that, hey, this thing's being worn. And there you have it. Interior, exterior. Interior, exterior. Now, we will be going over this in class. You will have the video for guidance. However, the main exercise will be to draw our school building, so at least it'll be something a little more familiar for you. Alright, this will be going up on Canvas shortly, along with the video. See you tomorrow. Have a nice day. Don't psych yourself out. Scott out.